Hello, everyone, and welcome as we start letting some people in the room. I am Tammy Alvarez, your host, and we're so happy that you are here today for our session of Rise and Thrive. So, Tiffany O is my co conspirator. Say hello, and you'll get to meet her a little bit later. And we're just super glad that you're here for the next hour or so for us to really help you level up your leadership. I remember this one day. I was in the boardroom surrounded by the boys, and my executive was apoplectic. He was having such a massive coronary fit and screaming at the top of his lungs about something that none of us could really control. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm on Wall Street, and so that was normal. And I remember sitting there thinking, somebody has got to get this guy in check. Yet I felt like I looked like the banana. I'm not the one to do it. It's not my job. Maybe one of these other guys will say something. And it just kept going on and on. So I let him run out of his steam a little bit, kind of fired up that inner lion, and very quietly said, John, do you think we can start to focus on the problem and move past this emotional outburst? And he just stopped dead in his tracks. And everybody else started coughing and choking and not making eye contact, wondering how long it was going to take me to get fired. And he said, yeah, I think we can. And we moved on with the agenda. And so today is about not only giving you the knowledge, but the skills and the perspectives to, on the days where you feel like that banana, where nothing you do is right, to show up like that kitten and that roaring lion when you need to. Because when you choose these moments carefully, you'll be amazed how much that impacts your executive presence and accelerates your career and what you're able to do for your team and the company. And during our conversation about Rise and Thrive, we're going to be talking about some of the fundamental principles of Own Your Power, which is a leadership program that we've been running here at Career Winner Circle for almost a decade at this point. And we talk about that self-awareness. Who are we really? And what do we want? We align that with purpose. We sprinkle a little bit of ambition on here, and that is going to be the magic equation for your next big thing. I'm Tammy Alvarez, the founder of the Career Winner Circle, where we empower business leaders to make a big impact and love every Monday again. And I am here with my lovely partner in crime, Tiffany O. So, Tiffany, why don't you take a few minutes to say hi to everyone and introduce yourself as well?
Oh my goodness. I'm uber excited, Tammy, to be in this dialogue with you. I agree with you and concur that as women, we need to be able to find our courage. And I believe this program is going to be just that. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer for Virtual Partner. I'm also a coach with Career Winner Circle alongside Tammy and her fabulous team. When I developed Virtual Partner, I really wanted to just provide operational support to business owners, but I had this niche and focus on female entrepreneurs. And in 2024, I found my courage. I crystallized my focus to really sound the call for leaders to reinvigorate the workplace with humanity and create this path forward, not just for women to rise through leadership, but also thrive along the way. And that's why I'm very excited to be here with you today to talk about the 5 power moves to help you to do just that. Tammy, I can't wait for you to get us started.
Thanks. And I apologize for my crappy lighting. I am in a hotel room in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the moment. So, as a Mexico City resident, I am definitely out of my element right now. So I don't normally sit in the dark, but I did not want to miss our opportunity to spend some time together. When we start to talk about these 5 power moves, I want you to have the confidence that this actually works. And I want to give you a couple of case studies of where this has come into play, because I know I'm a natural skeptic. First thing I'm like is, who are you? Why should I trust you? And how do I know it's not only going to work, but how do I know it's going to work for me? And so one of the things we did is we brought Own Your Power to Cornell University, because here's what happened in their science and engineering colleges, in the postgraduate, they accomplished something that no Ivy League college up to that point had accomplished. They achieved gender parity, which was a major thing. So they had just as many women as men enrolled in these scientific fields. But what they found was that during their entrepreneurial accelerators, which are significant at Cornell because the contacts, the money, and just the ability to actually do something with your idea is huge here. But what they found is despite the 50-50 connection in terms of representation, only 30% of women were participating in the incubators. And like, there's a problem here. And so we brought in Own Your Power as pre-gaming before they went into the incubators. And then they started to reach closer to parity in terms of people who are registering to compete and take their lion's share of the winnings. And so some beautiful companies have been started on the foundation of Own Your Power, which makes my heart so happy. And then we've also brought this to other businesses like Experian in the financial services sector, Quest in the medical sector, and then Matchcraft, which is actually the company that invented the bidding system for Facebook advertising. So they're all things social media and all things scientific algorithms. So this does work. So please lean in and learn these 5 power moves because they are going to be game changers for you starting the minute we hang up this call today. So I'm going to walk you through the 5 power moves really quickly, and then Tiffany's going to take us through strengthening your voice. So strengthening your voice is where we talk about how do you not only be seen and heard, but how do you inspire people to take action on your ideas, which is what this is all about. I'm going to walk you through how to quantify your value because in this case, ladies, if you can't count it, it doesn't count. And so we're going to talk about how you do this and the benefits you get from that. Tiffany's going to bring us back to our community because we all know that our tribe is our vibe and we need to make sure that we've got that dialed in. And then I'm going to walk you through how to take the right risks at the right time, no matter how little data or background you have on a situation. So this will be a fail-proof process for you to use. And then we are going to wrap it up with finding your courage and a very exciting offer and opportunity for you at the end of this. So please make sure you hang with us to the bitter end. So Tiffany, or actually, no, we're going to start with a poll question because I love to ask you guys questions before we go into our topic. So we're going to pop up a poll right now. And then I want you guys to go ahead and pop in there and vote. The question is, which outcome do you wish you achieved more often? So when you end the day, out of all these thoughts that go through your mind, which one do you wish you can get rid of? Right? So give it a few minutes, let other people vote. Okay. Oh, this is great. The results are coming in all over the place. So I love seeing those. We got a lot of things to cover today. So we'll give it another second. All right, go ahead and release the answers to that. So we are talking about my ideas being acknowledged, people being engaged and interested, explaining myself clearly, and being comfortable sharing opinions, even if they may not be what everybody else wants to hear. And so good news is we're going to talk about all of these things right now. So Tiffany, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Oh, wow. So this whole idea around strengthening our voice, from the results, whether it's the perception of assertiveness, if it's fear of backlash, pressure to be perfect, these are all some of the reasons why people are not so comfortable sharing their opinions, right? And so the data is telling us that women suffer with this more often than men. So ladies, you voted those, but you're not in a room by yourself. Most of us have had this experience, and strengthening our voice becomes our call to action. And you'll notice there's this thought here, not being an echo, but being the voice. This is all about us reclaiming the opportunity to speak first, to have a plan, and to be strong and forthright about that. You know, the human voice is the most perfect instrument of all. And if you compare it to any musical instrument, you know, the sound of the human voice when it reverberates from someone like an Aretha Franklin, a Whitney Houston, or someone like that, oh, there's so much beauty in that power. Jennifer Hudson, and the list goes on and on. And of course, I was also told I can't forget Taylor Swift, right? These are all very, very powerful voices. And where does that their voice come from? Comes from inside, right? Their breath and their vocal cords together with their diaphragm creates this power. all from inside. And I'm just here to say that you have everything you need inside of you. You just need to do a little bit of exercise, just like a voice coach would help these amazing women reverberate sound that moves the soul. So how do we do that? So I'm going to give you 4 principles, 4 exercises that you can use. Take your pens and papers out. All of these may not apply, but I promise you, there can be something here for everyone. We want you to have an action plan when you leave our session today. The first principle I want you to think about is aligning to core values. Now, this is not necessarily your core values. What we're talking about here is when you're in a room, in a corporate setting or with other professionals, you want to be this irrefutable force in the room. And the only way you get to do that is when you can align what you want to say, what you have to add to the values of the organization or the people you're speaking with. In other words, know your audience, right? So what are the organization's core values? When you speak to those, when you add your commentary to that, your voice now has credibility. And that is what strengthening our voice is about, being that echo and not a voice, but speaking with credibility and authority. The next is establishing clear strategies and goals. I call this the clarion call. And I go back to my musical instrument illustration. You know that high-pitched trumpet, the clarinet, um, or that clarion call was used to call people to battle. It has to be clear and it has to be strong. So as leaders, ladies, are people clearly following us because we have articulated the strategy, the goal, and the vision, right? When we're able to build coalition around the vision, then our voice becomes stronger and people rally around our leadership call. Here's our third one, and that is around setting high expectations. Now, a good analogy for this is sports, right? You may not expect to be flawless the first time you try a sport, but you don't expect to fail miserably. Otherwise, you'd never get started. So here, this is around setting expectation. This encourages you and your teams to be confident and be taken seriously. So you want to set the bar high and aim for that. This mindset will help you to be move past that fear of backlash, which is what holds us back sometimes from being from courageously speaking out. And this last piece here about consistency. This really is all about how we show up in those small incremental moments to establish trust with our audience. If you feel like your ideas are being dismissed or you struggle to explain yourself consistently or repeatedly, then you want to consistently show up in small doses where people can recognize what you say makes sense. So you want to just have a consistent track record of delivering value. Be the person that links what you're doing, the decisions and the commentary back to value to the organization. When we consistently do that, then our voice will reverberate nice and strong. So here's our action step before we move to the next one. I want you to take a moment and reflect. When was the last time you ensured your actions aligned to the core values of the person or organization in front of you? How clearly do you communicate strategies and goals and visions? What high expectations have you set for yourself and your team and hold them accountable? And lastly, how consistent are you in your leadership approach and communication? Now, on that list, put a check mark and decide today which of the 4 principles we just discussed are going to help you in moving forward. All right, now we've gotten to the place where we're no longer the echo, right? But we are the voice. Now it's time to look at something equally as important. What is it that you put behind the voice, and that's value? I'll turn it over to Tammy to take us into a deeper dive around value.
Excellent. Thank you, Tiffany. And we've got another poll for you because this is not a sit and listen type of event, right? Taking action is what it's all about and what we're all about here. So let's go ahead and pop up that poll question and see where everybody is at in terms of our next power move. Last time
Just 1 second. Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Like last time we did this, it gave us a little bit of a problem, right?
It is, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start with this, and then Kelly, let me know when we are ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, sure.
When we're talking about value, too often we think about our value in terms of what I like to call kittens and bunnies, right? People like us. We get work done. You know, we're collaborative partners and all of these things. And while they're really, really important, what is equally as important is being able to monetize the value that you are delivering to the organization. And so in lieu of the poll, let's just use our chat window instead. We'll just save ourselves a little bit of time. But on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being I'm crushing this, and 1 being, all right, I don't even know where to start, how easily can you quantify the value that you are delivering to the organization? So in those chat windows, go ahead and pop a 1 to 5, and let's get a sense of where we're going as I start to talk about how you can do this. So I'll give that just a second. That's some of those. Okay, we got a 4, a 5, a 4. Excellent. I love these numbers that are coming in. And here is why it's important to be able to quantify your value. The first thing it does is it helps solidify your personal brand. So when you start to think about what are the first 3 things that someone thinks about when they hear your name, what are they? And are they things that can come back to the things that we can quantify? Now, if you're in a revenue producing role, that's much easier. I know when I was leading sales teams, I never needed a performance review because it was the numbers. Did we hit our numbers? Good job. If we didn't, then I had a problem, right? And I had, then we had a difficult conversation. But I've also worked in groups like audit, where you are as unsexy as you can possibly be. You're as far away from the business as you can be. It's like, how are we adding any value to the business, and how do we quantify it? And so here are 3 things that you want to be able to leverage to quantify your value. And ideally, you are going to be able to do at least 2 out of the 3. And that 3-legged stool is time, cost, and quality. So are the things you're doing making things happen faster? Are the things that you're doing leading to things being done better? Or are the things that you're doing leading to cost savings within the organization or revenue generation within the organization? Because those are the things you can count. And those are the things that once you know your impact, then you can start to monetize. And that's how that leads to really building that brand of saying, oh, hang on a second, we need to get Tiffany in the room. She's the expert that's going to fix this for us. And people start to gravitate towards you and pull you in instead of you trying to ask for a seat at the table. Once you've got that personal brand identified with time, cost, and quality, then I want to make sure that you're focused on mixing that blend of having the soft skills that are very, very important with that quantifiable value, because that I do believe is where women have that secret sauce. We've got that ability to be approachable, to build communities, to build a trusting environment, and not pull any punches when it comes to driving business results. And so let's use that to your benefit. The other way that you're able to really build value within an organization is to be the go-to person for something important. And so when you think about what you're doing, the projects that you're working on, the things you're involved with, are they aligned to the company's top priorities? Because a lot of times we can be really busy and doing a lot of work, but unfortunately we're in the low value business. And that's not going to help you, the company, or your career. So let's make sure that we stay out of there and we become part of the cool kids table, and that we are the sought after expert for things that are important. And then last but not least, things I also want you to think about is what success looks like today will not be what success looks like tomorrow. We are all one headline away, one reorg away, one, bad day away from having something change to where what was normally the way we were headed is no longer the way the company or that we need to go. So make sure that you are always keeping your eye on those goalposts. And as they move and shift with them. And when you get really good, you can start to read the tea leaves and be like, oh, hang on a second. I've been here before. I know how this rodeo ends. Let's go ahead and start to see around the corner and anticipate what's going on. But as a women in leadership, if you've got that strong brand, people know the value delivered to the organization, you are the one being sought after, and you always stay adaptable, you're going to be in the driver's seat much more often than not. And with your voice and with your quantifiable value, now it's time to talk about the people that you're spending time with and how you are going to grow with your tribe and your community. And Tiffany's got a really good story to get us in the right mindset for this.
Yeah, Tammy, I didn't recognize how important my network was until my friend Fran brought it to my attention. I was really excited in 2024 to restart Virtual Partner and to refresh the brand. And so I reached out to a friend of 30 years who I knew she'd been a business owner and she's like a powerful woman, mover and a shaker. I already knew that about her. I just didn't really know the extent. Anyway, so I reached out to Fran and said, well, let me figure out what Fran is doing in business. Maybe she could put some eyes on what I'm doing and provide me with some feedback. So I go into her website and I'm like, oh my goodness, Fran is like killing it. I'm like, she is really doing it. So I was excited when she took my meeting. And the first thing she said after she heard my proposal, she was really excited, but she said, Tiff, babe, you're gonna have to change. The game has changed. You have to upgrade your friends. And I looked and I'm like, oh, I'm all about people and like my people matter. So what did you mean? And what she really meant was that now that I was playing in a bigger space, I needed to widen my network of friends so that my power base would strengthen. And here's where it connected for me, Tammy, and all of you here. She says, this is what I'm going to do for you. She opened up her Rolodex. She's like, I'm going to plan a retreat. Here's some women you need to meet. And I'm going to facilitate bringing us all together. All of a sudden now things were going to shift. And that's when I realized what Power Base was really all about and the need to grow and strengthen your network. You know, Sheryl Sandberg says motivation comes from working on the things you care about, but also working with people that you care about. So as we're strengthening our network and growing, we also need to do that in a very authentic and real way with people that we sincerely care about. Now, here's why this matters. You're going to get the value you get when you shift your focus to the kinds of people that are in your network. Number one, you're going to get access to information and resources. There's going to be this knowledge sharing, right? People start to get into these mastermind groups. There's just so much dynamic that's built into some of this. You also get resource allocation. Now you can tap into your network to secure funding. Right now, your business or your idea, that big reason why you're here today, you want to work on, you need to put some legs on that, right? And you're going to need people to help you be able to do that. How about influence and credibility, visibility, advocacy, problem solving, collaboration? The list goes on and on and on about why we need some of the why about strengthening our network. And then lastly, if you're in a career place here on this call today, career advancement and opportunity is what you get when you strengthen your network. So here are 4 strategies to be able to help you to do that. And I love this picture here about growth, right? You know, some plants, they're finicky. You don't mess with them often and they flourish. So those are the people in your network that you need to check on occasionally, know what's going on, call them when you need them, and they rise to the occasion. Some require lots of sunlight and talking to. So those are the individuals in your network now. You're going to make a shift. Start spotlighting them, collaborating with them. These are our high touch people. They need positive reinforcement. And others, plants need lots of food. These are our winers and diners. There are people like that in our network, right? So when we talk about this strategy of assessing who's in your network, you have to think about what you need to bring to the table, what kind of engagement you need to bring to the table, but also who's there. I'll tell you a quick story and then I'll wrap this up before we move on. I'll never forget being in corporate thinking that I had a great network of friends. And there are some people you need to prune some plants and they grow and thrive. Your network is like that. When I realized that there was an individual in that network that really wasn't in for Team Tiffany, you have to prune, right? In a nice, loving, thoughtful, real way. So as women, we know sometimes there are haters that you have to snip, right? That's all
Frenemies.
about assessing.
Yeah.
Frenemies, assessing our tribe and get real and honest about that. Evaluate your network, your power base, your mentors. That's number 2. Figure out who is it you can call on who will rise to the occasion, and who is it that are just other key stakeholders that you need to figure out what your goal and objectives are with each person in your network. Get really thoughtful about that. The last 2 pieces about discerning and being relevant are kind of interconnected. One, I think about this discerning piece. I say it's like a parking lot. You don't want to live in the parking lot. You go there temporarily. Social media and social network is like that. It's a place to start, not a place to live. And then this being relevant piece, this is all about keeping up with what's happening in your industry and with what's important with the individuals in your network. When we do that, and take a moment to really be honest with ourselves, I want you to pick up your pen and paper and figure out which of these four could you make an adjustment on today. This is part of your action plan from this session. Think of 2 to 3 contacts, past or present, people of influence you haven't connected with in the past 90 days. Ask yourself, what are they up to? What milestone have they achieved? How have you shown up in support of them? And now decide to take one action step to move that connection and relationship forward. Tammy, I'll pass it back to you because these strategies I think are great, but we know there's more to come.
There is one more to do before we talk about the last one. And the other thing I want you to think about in terms of your network is that Porter-Gayle said, your network is your net worth. And so if you were to monetize and put a dollar value to the people that are in your community and to the value you deliver to others, it's just an interesting way to think about that in terms of doing the most important thing, which is building that power base. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a for real poll now, and not just joke around. Here we go, up and running. So from a risk perspective, which mindset do you wish you had more often? And we're going to talk about what holds us back and why this is so important to get right. So from a risk perspective, let's answer, which mindset do you wish you had more of? All right, we'll give another second or two. All right, why don't we go ahead and show those results? So we've got some perfectionists in the room. These are my, this is definitely my tribe. I can help you get over that in a hurry. Just read any email that I've written and you'll see that perfection will never get in the way of progress. And also that dreaded fear, right? Are they monsters or dust bunnies under your bed? So we're going to figure out all of that in just a minute. So when you think about taking risk, you want to think about this in a way that is repeatable. Because when you can build that system that you can use over and over and over again, it starts to take the fear out of it. Put failure as a predictable model versus this thing that hits you out of nowhere that no one saw coming. And now you can start having those trade-off discussions between time, investment, the errors, and then obviously those conversations around that. So we're going to talk about all of that right now. And you've got a problem with taking risks if any of these things sound familiar. So I'm going to throw out a few scenarios and I want you to put a yes or no in the chat window if they apply to you. No judgment, because these were all yeses for me at one point in time or another. Okay, so scenario number one, you've got a big decision you need to make and you are bringing your team together more than 2 times to talk about it, to get another opinion, to get some more data, to talk to more stakeholders, to do whatever. And so if that sounds familiar to you, put a yes in the chat window. If it does not, then go ahead and put a no or sometimes. Another one, you've got a giant email that you need to send out to an executive team summarizing what's happening in a meeting that just happened. And it's contentious. People are going to have their undies in a bunch. And so you write this email and you proofread it and then you walk away and you change a few words and you proofread it again and you walk away and you do it again and again. And you finally hit send maybe an hour later. If you've ever done that, give me a yes. If you haven't, give me a no. And then the other thing is you make a decision. And the minute you make that decision, you start second guessing yourself saying, oh, maybe that wasn't the right decision. Maybe I need another piece of data. Maybe I should have talked to one more person. If that's a yes, then give me a yes in the chat or a no if it's not. Because these things plague us all the time. And the beauty of it is it plagues everyone, boys and girls. So, we just get to talk about it a little bit more here because we're in the safe zone here. And the one thing I want you to know more than anything else is that making no decision is making a decision to do nothing. So every day you kick the can down the road, every day you pass and let somebody else make that decision, and give up your power and your authority. Every day that you wait, hem, and haw, you are deciding to do nothing. And you don't want to be that leader. And so just, remember that. And even when we take action, that doesn't mean that that's forever. You can always adjust. So no matter what, always move forward. Don't stay stuck, and you can adjust. And we're going to give you some tools on how to do that as well. The other thing is you need to avoid that perfection trap. We as women, I think specifically, make sure that we're exactly right for everything and everything is perfect. And we've talked to all the people, we've done all the things, and it doesn't need to be that way. So try and identify those behaviors in yourself, how many times you have to reread or type of that email before you get that out the door. And those things are going to be important. The other thing is do not let your mistakes define you. How many times do you have a conversation or something doesn't go exactly right, and you find that you are obsessing over this for days, if not weeks? Then you go back and talk to the person you were doing it with who hasn't given it a second thought. And you're like, okay, I've been torturing the crap out of myself for nothing. And so too often we're that banana and we're not the kitten. And one of the ways that you can get through this is by developing an experimental mindset. So instead of saying, we're going to do this, I'm 100% sure this is right, and we're going to take that hill, only to find out that when you get your team there, that hill is full of landmines. What you're going to say instead is, this is going to be an experiment. Some of the things that we're going to do are going to be great. Some aren't going to work out the way we thought, but we're going to do it quickly. We're going to create a minimal viable product. We're going to keep the things that work and get rid of the things that don't, and do it again and again and again. And when you do that, your mistakes will not define you because they were already expected. And so instead of that friend of me saying, see, girl, I told you that wasn't going to work, it's like, no, you didn't tell me anything, because we knew it wasn't going to work. And here was our plan before we even started. And it gives you that confidence to fail. Because the other thing is, too many people, men and women, have an unhealthy relationship with failure. They believe that one is the opposite of the other, but here is the truth. You cannot succeed without having failed. And if you are avoiding failure, my friend, you are preventing success. So lean into this experimental mindset. Do not let your mistakes define you, and you will move further, faster, and get more sleep at night. And then the last thing is being that that short-term skeptic and a long-term optimist. Give me a yes in that chat window if you can think of at least one person, if not a dozen, where the minute you have an idea, they're the first ones to tell you all the ways it's not going to work. Right? Or all the ways that things that could go wrong. And so these people used to drive me crazy. But this is when you want them. So bring them all into a room and give them your ideas, and then say, okay, what could go wrong? Tell me everything. This is when they are at their best. And they're going to tell you all the things that could go bump in the night. And from there, you are going to figure out, how do we detect it, prevent it, and fix it if it goes wrong. Now you can move forward with confidence because you know you've thought through everything and you are prepared in every eventuality. So I want you to think about that, because once you go through that process, then you can go back to being that long-term optimist, because you know that those are dust bunnies and not monsters under your bed. So putting these through, the first star being 1 and the last star being 4, which one of these are going to be the first thing that you are going to get better at as soon as we are off this call today? What's your top priority? Because this seems to be an opportunity for everyone to start to level up a little bit. So is it number 1, making decisions versus staying stagnant? Is it number 2, avoiding the perfection trap? Number 3, not letting our mistakes define us? Or number 4, being that short-term skeptic? So give me those numbers for you, so that way we know where you also want to focus. And I'm going to share a story about courage before I turn this back over to Tiffany to bring us home. And so I was in an executive's office, and I needed him to do something I knew he was not going to want to do. And I was prepared for it. I was terrified. This man was 4 levels above me, and they sent me in. I'm like, you guys are all chicken. And so was I, but I was the lowest one on the totem pole. So I had to go. And so he and I are having this conversation and this big debate, and he's being all bristly and all, conference room bully type stuff. And I'm trying to hold my own, but I'm terrified. The phone rings. And he purposely puts it on speaker because he knew who it was going to be. And I hear the voice on the other end of the phone, and my jaw drops. And basically, on the other end of the phone, the person said, "Hey, dude, how'd I do last night?" And I was like, what is going on? It was John McCain. And this was the day after his first debate with Barack Obama the night before. And this guy I am arguing with is giving potentially the future president 20 minutes of advice on how he did on the debate. Now, for those of you who don't know my background, I came from a small town. My dad left. My mom, my sister, and I were homeless. I never went to college. Like, this was not the circles that I ever went in. And so once this was done, we went back to arguing. I lost and went to my boss's office. And I'm like, why am I here? I don't belong here. I don't look like anybody else. I don't think like anybody else. I don't have the pedigree. And I'm like, all these things that I don't have. And then she laughed at me and she's like, are you done? I'm like, for now. And she's like, you are here because you're not part of the problem. You are here because you are willing to go in and have the conversation everyone else was too afraid to take. And you're willing to get the things done that no one else was willing to do. And it took me a really long time to realize that all the things that made me different, that I thought were my Achilles heel, were actually my superpower. And I didn't know it. And so this is where courage comes in. When you know what your superpower is. And when you're able to pull that force, because when you start playing bigger, that's when your confidence decides to go to the Bahamas for the weekend. It's like, good luck with that. I'll see you later. It's like, where'd it go? And I want to make sure that you can take action on these 4 power moves, because the only way you can take action is by having courage. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Tiffany.
Oh my goodness. I am woman. Hear me roar, right? Or am I meowing? You know, when we start talking about courage, of course, to go back to that image that Tammy put up in the beginning of the lion, the kitten or the lion. And really, what is it that makes us feel like the kitten, right? Is it fear? And I think, Tammy, you spent quite a bit of time really helping us calibrate and get our minds around fear. One wise writer says that fear serves as a restraint and it holds us back. And often it's the voices in our head that are more intense than reality. Like she talks about the dust bunnies under the bed. And these thoughts in our head that are circling create fear, and it holds us back, and we have a failure to launch. So what are we really afraid of when it comes to failure? Here's what I want you to embrace. I want you to think about some of the benefits of failure. Now, Tammy talked about really leaning into failure. And what we want to encourage is fail fast, fail forward, right? And failure doesn't live opposite of success. It lives together with it, and is also often a stepping stone. So here's what we can do. We learn from our mistakes. We get those valuable lessons learned. So think about your big why. Why are you here today? What is it that's there? Please write down what it is. What's holding you back? If you've tried something and failed, I want you to write down on a piece of paper what you learned from that. Resilience is another thing. When people see how you managed the failure or the outcome, whatever it is, it fosters and engenders respect by the way we bounce back and recover. Isn't it true that when we can't do something the way we originally tried, we get really creative and really innovative, and we make it happen? So when we are afraid, and we have this innovative mindset, we get really creative. We start thinking outside the box, and that helps us. All of this, though, you have to take action. And action is what reduces the fear, right? Strengthening relationships is also a benefit from leaning into failing fast, right? And failing forward. And then personal growth. So instead of viewing failure as a negative outcome and a derailer, something that holds you back from taking action, I want you to step on your platform. I am woman, hear me roar, and just do the thing. And then just catalog what you learned afterwards. And Tammy mentioned an MVP. You know, if you've got a big elephant, they say, how do you eat one? It's in small bite-sized pieces. So when we think about shifting fear to courage and having the desire to the motivation to move forward on one small action. And when you win, you'll have the courage to move forward on others. Either way, if you fail fast and you fail forward, you've gained the necessary experience. So here are some strategies that can help you. One, we want to encourage risk taking, right? Foster an environment, as Tammy mentioned in our previous power move. Risk is important, but you want to foster an environment where risk taking is encouraged, and then debunk the fearsome four: negative self-talk, second guessing, imposter syndrome, and low self-confidence. Really, really work on silencing that inner critic, that inner voice inside your head. Focus on accomplishments, focus on your wins, practicing gratitude, self-compassion, and love for yourself. I want you to think about the fearsome four. Which one, if you will put in the chat, is holding you back? Negative self-talk, second guessing, where you have to get validation from someone else that your idea is worthy. The imposter syndrome, I don't belong here at this table. Someone else is better than me, but not me. Or is it low self-confidence? Which of the four is impacting you? If none, just put a 0 there, and we know this doesn't belong to you. It might be another one of the strategies we focus on.
I know for me, I had the imposter syndrome before it was a thing. I didn't even, it didn't have a name when I had it, but that was my everyday life for sure.
Yeah, and if this is your first time hearing this expression, imposter syndrome, it's that psychological phenomenon where you doubt your abilities and achievements, and you feel like you don't deserve success. And it's common among high achievers, which is why most of you are probably here. You're high achievers, and most of us may suffer with that. Okay, so here is how we can overcome some of this. If you think about strategies for moving forward, let's focus on there are strategies for moving forward. Embrace courage, right? That inner voice, have it take a vacation. The next best thing, close the gap between what you envision and now take the courage to act and execute. Use your voice to quantify your value. Grow your network. We have 7 elements of courage that we address in a larger course that Tammy's going to talk about later. But for now, I want you to cut to the chase when you're dealing with people. Communication can really help you feel more assertive and more confident. Openly challenge. Be willing to question assumptions that are out there. But anyway, courage is what you need. First, take the first small step. So write on your paper today, what small step are you going to take to move your big idea forward? Are you going to be the woman and let us all hear you roar? Well, we've talked about 5 power moves. That last one was one of my favorites. But just to recap where we've been on our journey together today, we've talked about our voice not being an echo, but being the voice. We talked about value, quantifying your value. If you can't put a number to it, it didn't happen. If you can't explain it, how can anyone else? We talked about aligning that value to the values of the organizations that you're going to be in front of. Know your audience. We talked about the value of community, growing your community. Your network is equal to your net worth. So if you're not able to put a monetary value to that, then there's an opportunity for you. You need to diversify your network, get those trusted advisors, have these buckets of people with names in them. You have to have the stakeholders and a plan for them. And then lastly, the last 2 are risk and courage, not being afraid to take risk and not to be so risk averse. Fail forward, fail fast. And that goes in tandem with our conversation around courage. You have to be an action taker to gain courage. It's only through taking action will you gain more courage. And with that, how do you put all this into practice? I'm going to turn it over to Tammy to see how to explain to this group how you can put it all together in the next week or 2 in the month to come.
Yeah, Excellent. Thank you for that. And so in the chat window, which power move do you want to master? So I would love to see which ones resonate mostly with you. And then just one final comment on the whole courage thing. We don't stand in a constant state of insecurity and lack of courage, right? Like normally, like we're pretty good. We got our day, we do our thing, we're making our impact, and life is good. Yet, as soon as we start to play bigger, as soon as we start to step out there, then our courage tends to take a back seat and we start to lose our mojo. And I find too many women that are waiting for the mojo to come back. And I got news for you, ladies. There is no courage fairy that's going to be sprinkling pixie dust on your pillow while you're sleeping, right? The way this happens is through taking action. And the way you're able to punch it in the face and say, no, I'm sorry, I get to be the boss today, is by being able to shorten that cycle. And so what I want you to imagine, because this is the experience that our clients have over and over and over again. But if you're, as long as you're not driving, and when you read this or when you listen to this, imagine that you are confidently leading your team with that clarity and purpose. And that you are not just coasting, but your career is thriving. And you've got that balance that you've always wanted. And you are not just climbing that ladder, but you are rewriting the rules and making your mark, because that is why you're here. And this is the stuff that Own Your Power brings to the table. And just to give you an idea of like where a lot of people come in at. So all the time, there are moments in our careers and our lives where we feel stuck and we're not quite sure. It's like, oh, am I doing this right? Like, could I be doing this different? And we have to play a role that we don't feel comfortable with just to fit in. And oftentimes I've felt unheard, overlooked, and unrecognized to the point where I'm like, do I have to scream from the top of the conference room table to get anybody to listen to me? And then ultimately, when you get passed up, when your ideas aren't taken, people don't take action on them, you start to feel underappreciated and unsupported. And I think we all have moments where these things happen in our businesses. But then we also have those moments where we are crystal clear. And we walk in and we own that space with our executive presence. And we know we're not winging it. That this has worked and it can work again. Because we all know even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, but we don't want to be that blind squirrel, right? We want to have those processes. And like we talked about before, you want to be the cool kid at the table where everyone wants to sit there and get your ideas so you feel valued. And you're starting to become that advisor and you're working in a very natural state, which gives you that empowerment that you need. Now, all of us can get from point A to point B, but sometimes it's not so straight. This was my journey. Right? It's like up, down, backwards, sideways, major forward, and all these things. But we ultimately, on our own, can get from point A to point B. It's just going to hurt and it's going to take some time. And the reason that I developed Own Your Power was to smooth out that line. Now, is it easy? No. But instead of scaling a rock trail that you're running up that's like this narrow, now you've got a paved road where you're going to wander, but you're going to wander in a way that's going to get you forward and move you in the right direction. And what we've done is we've condensed this down into 8 weeks because the people that we are working with are busy and they need results right away. So I don't have a year to get this right. And so what we want to do is know that in 8 weeks, you are going to master these 5 power moves and receive one massive transformation. And people who come in to Own Your Power walk out knowing how to have that clarity and voice and get recognized and make faster and better decisions by taking the right risks, being able to let these setbacks go off like water on the back's duck and really step into that room with that executive presence and grow with a world-class tribe. So when we were talking about community, if you are not living with a community that you know is going to elevate you, this one absolutely will. And here are some of the results of some of the other women who have come through of their own volition. So sometimes companies bring us in. Oftentimes individuals will say, I'm unheard. I'm doing this on my own. And is some of the results that they've had. And these women are from all walks of life, all shapes, sizes, companies, individual entrepreneurs, senior leaders, new leaders. Every flavor will benefit from this. And I just want you to get a sense of really some of the transformative results that Own Your Power has offered. And then I want to talk to you really quickly about how we serve our customers, because if this resonated with you today, and if you know that you want to run, not walk, to career success, to owning your power and stepping into that fulfilled state that you know you want for your business, for yourself, for your teams, this is the path forward. And because we want to make this available to everyone at every possible chance, we've got a variety of different options in how we can work together. But at the very least, absolutely everyone will join Tiffany and I for 8 live sessions where we break down these power moves. And we are not only going to show you what to do, which is what we did today, but we are going to show you how to do it and give you the playbooks and the tools and all those things to move faster. And because it's not a question of if, but when you miss a live session, because life is going to get in the way, then everything is recorded. And we are also open for weekly office hours. So you can watch that recording, come back, or bring what you're working on and come back. And during those office hours, we're going to be able to help you out. And then everyone is going to get a power score assessment. Tiffany and I both asked you today, how are you rating yourself on a few of these things? Well, after this assessment, I'm going to tell you how you are on each of these things. And you'll know where you're starting from, so you know where to grow from. And then obviously we've got that just amazing Own Your Power community, right? The tools, the job aids, the community, all of these things are there forever for you and allow you to move forward faster. And if you're bougie like me, then you might want to think about some of the premium and some of the elite options, where we incorporate private coaching sessions in there for you. So you'll work one-on-one with either Tiffany or I. We'll give you a leadership assessment. And I know you've taken 100, you're going to take one more that's actually going to give you the answers you've been looking for instead of telling you the things you already know. And then we also will bring this information into your organizations and help you with either lunch and learns or workshops to add value, especially if you want your company to pay for this, which we're also happy to help you do. And then for the elite, the last thing that they get is we host quarterly roundtables with executives in a mastermind style. So you can bring your biggest problems in, share and collaborate with your peers, and walk away with some fantastic insights. And then in addition to working with us, I love free stuff. I don't know about you, but Tiffany and I are always about the bonuses and about the free things. And so for those of you who join, everyone is going to get a signed copy of my book that was launched in January called Escaping the Career Trap, Transform Your Apathy into Ambition and Never Hate Mondays Again. And so everyone will get a signed copy of that, fun swag bag, and then a 7-week email training series that we've developed, as well as that resiliency roadmap and the ultimate career strategy guide. And then ultimately, if you take that action this week, so we are sitting on, what are we on, Thursday? Wednesday. What day are we on today? Today's Wednesday. Somebody tell me what day we're on. I'm just running like a lunatic lately. So if you book your time with Tiffany by Friday, the meeting doesn't have to happen on Friday, but you have to book it by 5 o'clock Eastern on Friday. Then, and you decide that this is right for you, then these massive bonuses valued at $5,000 are going to be yours for free, simply for taking action quickly. And so is this program right for you? I don't know. We just met. And so that's up for you to decide with some guidance from Tiffany. And so Kelly, if you can pop up the booking link for Tiffany so everyone here can book. We have nothing to sell today because I don't know if it's right for you. And you don't know if it's right for you. But what you do know is enough to know, are you curious to see what that next step looks like? And so what we want you to do is to book your clarity call with Tiffany. And the good news is she's a terrible salesperson. She hates to sell. And so this is not going to be one of those slimy sales calls. This is really going to be, where are you in your career, in your business? Where do you want to be? And is this the right thing to help you get from point A to point B? And if it is, then which flavor of it is the best for you in terms of small, medium, and large? And so in the chat window right now, I want to give me a yes for the fact that you are going to click on that link while we're still talking and going through Q&A and booking that complimentary clarity call with Tiffany before we wrap up today. So, so who here is going to be booking that clarity call? So give me a yes in the chat window. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and click on the link that just got put in. So Tiffany, any closing words before we open it up for Q&A?
Oh my goodness. I am so grateful for those of you who joined today. And I know that there are 3 Alyssas in the room. And I would love to say, will the real Alyssa Connor please stand up? But I have a feeling that Zoom did this to us. So for those of you who are here, you're not on camera. I would love to see your lovely faces for a moment, but if not, just hear the sincerity in my voice. I really appreciate the time that you've given Tammy and I to be on this journey with you. This is a personal growth and professional growth journey, right? And so because it's growth, it can be very, very personal and be very, very prickly and sticky. And so we are so glad that you allowed us to have this safe space to be here with you today. So before we get into Q&A in the spirit of safety, we're going to stop recording so that you can just get real and raw and authentic with us, and we'll be able to help you as we round out the call. But thank you for